Excerpt. Replay Book 3, Honor Bound, by Nia Farrell. He chose rope that had been dyed red and quickly went to work, creating an elaborate design that bound her feet together and her body to the swing. He wove some kind of a body harness that banded her breasts above and below, lifted and separated them in an erotic display. He wanted her hands behind her, and she joined them at her back, underneath the swing, where he used more rope to secure them. "How are you, princess?" he asked, even as he was checking her color, her circulation, her comfort level. "Any tingling, numbness, discomfort?" "I'm good, sir." Blue light flared in his eyes. "Are you?" he rumbled. "We shall see." The latent promise in his voice, paired with the lambent look of bedroom eyes, made her wet, very wet. Her pants felt soaked. As exposed as she was, with her thighs framing her upturned crotch, there was no keeping it secret from him. If she could smell her arousal, so could he. He breathed deeply, steadily, while he photographed her from every conceivable angle, constantly assessing between the occasional question he would ask. Setting the camera aside, he checked his handiwork, ducking low to see the color of her fingers behind her back. When he straightened slightly, his face was directly in front of her crotch, and very, very close. All he'd have to do was lean or pull her to him. He inhaled sharply and met her eyes. Locking gazes, he refused to let her look away. "Eyes open," he ordered when she tried to close them. "There will be no hiding, princess." And no escape either. She was bound, at his mercy, and yet she knew that one word would end it. She was in control. She was safe. He grasped the front cables to steady the swing. Leaning forward, he blew into her cloth-covered crotch, then pressed his mouth against her swollen outer lips and traced them with his tongue. Oh, God. She couldn't help it. She moaned, wanting what he'd promised, what they'd agreed to. "Please," she begged him. "Please." Fingers replaced tongue. He rubbed upward, teasing her clitoris through the knit of her pants, finding new ways to make her body weep with desire. He reached up, pinched and twisted her nipple at the same time he pressed on her clit, creating a connection that sent a jolt of electric current racing between them, making heat coil low in her belly. She ached, empty, acutely aware of her body's needs. An orgasm would take the edge off, at least. She whimpered. He stroked, teasing patterns and rough caresses, the strength of his fingers counterpointed by tender kisses against her belly, her mons, her seam. He nudged his nose between her legs, working the soaked fabric into her crevice. He separated her labia beneath her pants and managed to find her clitoris. Coaxing it from its hood, he stroked her with his hands, piquing her arousal time and again without letting her climax. Rising, he changed angles, pressing his palm against her clit and pushing his finger in as deeply as the back-knit cloth would let him. "Please, sir," she begged him. "For God's sake, please, just. He straightened abruptly. "You remember our agreement," he said, unfastening his pants and taking out his cock, large to match the man, as hard as oak, and leaking pre-cum that he spread across his glands with his fingers. Fisting himself, he stepped up to the swing and reached for her, wrapping his fingers around her waist to hold her in place. He arched his back, pushed against her, and snapped his hips, hard enough that his balls slapped her crack. He rolled his pelvis in an erotic bump and grind, rubbing his shaft against her tenderest flesh. External stimulation. Exactly what she'd agreed to, but hardly what she'd envisioned. Thank God. This was so much better.